The world is spinning faster than a breaking news ticker tonight, and we are tracking three massive, unrelated stories that are sending shockwaves across the globe. From a sudden geopolitical collapse in the Middle East to unprecedented political meddling in international sports, all the way to a shocking tech scandal that has Silicon Valley reeling, we have a lot to unpack. Grab your coffee, because the global landscape just shifted beneath our feet. First, our top story takes us to the Middle East, where the fragile peace we all hoped would hold has officially shattered. Rumors had been circulating for weeks, but the definitive announcement came earlier today. The Iran ceasefire has officially collapsed. What was meant to be a historic stepping stone toward long-term regional stability has dissolved back into high-alert military postures and fiery diplomatic rhetoric. International observers are calling it a massive setback for global diplomacy. The breakdown reportedly occurred after a series of unresolved border disputes and mutual accusations of covert operations. Analysts warn that the collapse of this agreement doesn't just impact local borders, it threatens global energy markets, shipping lanes, and international alliances. Defense departments worldwide are already scrambling to adjust their strategies, leaving everyday citizens wondering if we are on the brink of a much larger global conflict. But while the world watches the geopolitical arena, a completely different kind of battle is brewing in the world of sports. In a move that has left both sports analysts and international diplomats utterly stunned, Donald Trump has injected himself directly into the governance of global football. Reports indicate that Trump has launched a highly aggressive public campaign to influence FIFA's upcoming tournament decisions and internal policies. While political leaders have historically used sports for soft diplomacy, this level of direct intervention is unprecedented. Critics are calling it a blatant overreach and an attempt to weaponize the world's most popular sport for political leverage, while supporters argue he is merely protecting national interests on the global stage. FIFA officials are reportedly furious, scrambling behind closed doors to maintain the organization's strict policy against government interference. The beautiful game is officially getting ugly, and the fallout could redefine sports politics forever. Finally, we turn to the tech world, where a single sudden departure has sent the stock market into a tailspin. Marcus Platner, the visionary billionaire and primary architect behind the upcoming Global Tech Summit, has abruptly dropped out of the event. For months, Platner was advertised as the crown jewel of the event, set to unveil a highly anticipated next-generation AI framework. His sudden exit, announced via a cryptic three-line press release, has triggered widespread panic. Is it a health crisis, a massive security breach, or is the technology simply not ready? Investors are spooked, tech enthusiasts are baffled, and rumors of a massive boardroom coup are spreading like wildfire. The summit is still scheduled to go on, but with its biggest star gone, the entire event is facing an existential crisis. As the dust settles from today's bombshell announcements, the global community is scrambling to handle the immediate fallout. What started as a chaotic morning has turned into a high-stakes chess match spanning 3 continents, leaving world leaders, sports executives, and tech tycoons in complete disarray. Behind closed doors in Washington, Brussels, and Tehran, the mood is reportedly tense. Military analysts note that the collapse of the Iran ceasefire has immediately put naval forces in the region on high alert. The primary concern now centers on vital shipping corridors and international trade lanes, which are suddenly vulnerable to sudden escalations. Diplomatic channels are buzzing as negotiators try to salvage what remains of the communication channels, but public rhetoric remains exceptionally hostile. For the average consumer, this means volatile energy projections and a sudden spike in market uncertainty as the global economy braces for a potentially prolonged standoff. Meanwhile, at FIFA headquarters in Zurich, Switzerland, the atmosphere is described as pure panic. Trump's bold maneuvering to shift tournament policies has effectively thrown a wrench into the organization's multi-year planning cycle.
According to leaked internal communications, sports federations from several European and South American nations are threatening to boycott upcoming planning sessions if political pressure continues to dictate administrative decisions. FIFA's leadership is caught in an impossible vice: appease a massive political heavyweight to secure lucrative local partnerships, or stand firm on their regulatory autonomy to protect the integrity of the sport. Millions of fans worldwide are watching closely, terrified that their favorite tournament might become a casualty of international power plays. Simultaneously, the shockwave from Silicon Valley continues to expand. Following Marcus Platner's abrupt exit from the Global Tech Summit, the event's organizers issued a late-afternoon statement trying to project calm. They announced a panel of surrogate speakers to cover his highly anticipated slot, but industry insiders remain entirely unconvinced. Major institutional investors have already begun pulling back, causing tech indexes to suffer their sharpest single-day dip in months. Speculation on tech forums points toward deeper compliance issues or a sudden fallout between Platner and his core engineering team over data privacy concerns. What was supposed to be a celebration of next-generation innovation has rapidly devolved into a masterclass in corporate damage control.
The global chessboard has been completely upended, and the ripple effects are turning into a full-blown tidal wave. What began as a series of isolated disruptions has evolved into an interconnected global emergency, leaving the public demanding answers that nobody seems ready to provide. The pressure is mounting, and the stakes have never been higher. In the diplomatic corridors, the definitive breaking point has arrived. Intelligence briefs confirm that both sides have officially withdrawn their envoys, completely freezing any remaining channels of negotiation. The collapse of the Iran ceasefire is no longer just a threat to regional stability. It has officially triggered a realignment of superpower alliances. Neighboring nations are being forced to choose sides, drawing new lines in the sand that haven't been seen in decades. Economic analysts are already warning that if shipping lanes remain compromised for another 48 hours, global supply chains for essential goods could face unprecedented delays, potentially triggering panic buying in major cities worldwide. Simultaneously, the sports world is witnessing an absolute insurrection. Rather than backing down under political pressure, FIFA's executive board took the ultimate gamble this evening, calling an emergency press conference to issue a scathing rebuke against external political meddling. In a historic declaration of independence, the governing body hinted at shifting scheduled high-profile matches out of host territories that attempt to compromise their administrative autonomy. The threat has sent shockwaves through major broadcasting networks and corporate sponsors, who are now facing the terrifying reality of multi-billion-dollar contracts dissolving overnight. A global sporting celebration is rapidly mutating into the biggest geopolitical standoff the entertainment industry has ever seen. Meanwhile, the mystery deepens in Silicon Valley as the true nature of the tech crisis comes to light. Leaked internal emails from the Global Tech Summit organizers revealed that Marcus Platner's sudden departure wasn't a sudden retirement or a health scare. It was an escape. Hours before dropping out, Platner reportedly discovered a massive systemic flaw in the core architecture of his highly anticipated software, a vulnerability that could have exposed the personal data of hundreds of millions of users if launched on the global stage. By refusing to take the stage, Platner avoided a catastrophe but triggered a financial meltdown. As the markets brace for tomorrow's opening bell, one thing is abundantly clear. The world we woke up to this morning is gone, replaced by a volatile new reality where politics, sports, and technology are violently colliding.
The dust is finally beginning to settle, but the global landscape left behind looks entirely unrecognizable. In less than 24 hours, the worlds of high-level diplomacy, international sports, and cutting-edge technology have faced their sharpest pivots in a generation. The immediate panic has cooled into a calculated, tense waiting game as everyone watches to see who will make the next move. On the geopolitical front, the absolute worst-case scenario was narrowly avoided overnight. While formal peace talks remain completely frozen, neutral international intermediaries successfully established a temporary maritime safe zone, preventing an immediate shutdown of critical energy lanes. Oil markets, which had spent the day wildly fluctuating, experienced a cautious stabilization. However, military analysts warn that this is merely a band-aid on a gaping wound. The official end of the ceasefire has permanently altered regional defense spending, pushing neighboring nations into a prolonged Cold War stance that will dictate international relations for years to come. Over in Zurich, the high-stakes game of chicken between FIFA and political heavyweights has reached a temporary truce. Following the Federation's explosive public rebuke, intense behind-the-scenes negotiations resulted in a joint statement emphasizing mutual respect for organizational independence. The threat of relocating multi-billion-dollar tournaments has been shelved, for now. While sports fans breathed a collective sigh of relief that the games will go on, the incident has exposed a massive vulnerability. It proved that international sports are no longer a neutral ground, but a highly coveted theater for geopolitical leverage. Meanwhile, Silicon Valley is already pivoting from panic to profit. Marcus Platner, breaking his silence via a detailed technical blog post, changed the narrative entirely. By openly admitting to the software flaw, Platner transformed from a suspicious dropout into a responsible industry leader who chose user privacy over corporate hype. While the tech summit suffered lower attendance, the stock market reacted with a surprising late-day rally, rewarding the transparency. Competitors are already racing to fix similar vulnerabilities in their own systems, sparking a massive industry-wide security overhaul. The immediate crises have been contained, but the rules of the game have fundamentally changed. As the world moves forward, the events of these chaotic hours will serve as a stark reminder of just how fragile our global systems truly are.
The immediate fires have been put out, but the ash left behind is cooling into a completely new foundation for global affairs. As the week draws to a close, analysts, citizens, and industry leaders are stepping back to look at the larger picture. The crises of yesterday have fundamentally rewritten the playbook for how nations, sports institutions, and tech giants interact. In the diplomatic arena, the permanent loss of the Iran ceasefire has forced world governments to abandon their old foreign policy scripts. Rather than relying on sweeping, fragile peace accords, major powers are adopting a hyper-fragmented approach to diplomacy. Bilateral, localized security pacts are replacing broad international treaties. For everyday citizens, this new era means living in a multipolar world where stability is measured day by day rather than decade by decade. Defense departments are shifting budgets toward digital and economic containment, signaling that the future of conflict will be fought as much in the markets as on the ground. At FIFA, the fallout has initiated an internal revolution. Realizing that they can no longer pretend to exist outside the sphere of global politics, the Executive Committee has begun drafting a new constitutional framework. The proposed reforms aim to create an independent, legally binding shield against state-level interference, backed by neutral financial trusts. While this won't entirely stop powerful leaders from trying to influence the games, it establishes a clear legal boundary. The sports industry is finally accepting that the beautiful game is an inherently political arena, and they are preparing for it. The most profound shift, however, is taking place across Silicon Valley. Marcus Platner's radical transparency has set a new benchmark for corporate responsibility in the tech age. The Platner effect, as economists are already calling it, has forced venture capitalists to reevaluate how they fund innovation. The era of launching unfinished, high-risk software to pump up stock values is facing intense regulatory and public backlash. Tech conglomerates are heavily investing in algorithmic auditing firms, prioritizing long-term safety over immediate market hype. Platner himself has transitioned into a strict advisory role, guiding the next generation of engineers to build architectures that protect consumer privacy from the ground up. As the news cycle prepares to turn over to the next big headline, the lessons of this chaotic week remain clear. The systems holding our modern world together are deeply interconnected, and a single tremor in one sector can reshape them all. The chaos has subsided, but the journey into this new, highly calculated reality has just begun.
Part 6. The Modern Playbook: Navigating an Unpredictable Landscape. As the global community shifts from reacting to adapting, it is clear that the events of the past few days have established a completely new baseline for international dynamics. The shockwaves that initially rattled the markets, sports stadiums, and innovation hubs have smoothed into permanent shifts in how these systems operate on a daily basis. In the arena of international relations, the end of the traditional ceasefire model has given rise to hyper-localized, flexible alliances. Rather than relying on massive, all-encompassing peace frameworks that are prone to sudden collapse, nations are prioritizing targeted security arrangements and real-time economic containment strategies. This practical, day-by-day approach to stability has fundamentally changed the geopolitical landscape, turning risk management into an ongoing, dynamic process rather than a static goal. For global markets, this means a steady embrace of agility, with industries building resilient supply chains designed to withstand sudden international shifts. Meanwhile, the sports world is settling into a structurally reformed era. The initial friction surrounding administrative independence has motivated major athletic federations to systematically reinforce their governance rules. By adopting clearer operational boundaries and neutral financial protections, these organizations are actively working to shield their major tournaments from external political pressures. While global sports remain highly visible stages for cultural and national expression, these newly established institutional walls ensure that the games themselves remain stable, predictable, and focused purely on athletic competition. In the technology sector, the transition toward absolute architectural transparency is rapidly becoming the industry standard. Companies are moving away from the high-risk, accelerated launch cycles that previously dominated the market, focusing instead on rigorous security verification before introducing new systems to the public. This emphasis on safety and data protection has not only restored investor confidence, but has also fostered a more sustainable, deliberate approach to digital innovation worldwide. The immediate challenges have been navigated, leaving behind a globally resilient infrastructure. While the unpredictability of the modern world remains, the collective adaptability shown across these sectors proves that global systems are fully equipped to evolve, stabilize, and thrive in this new era. What began as 3 entirely isolated earthquakes, a geopolitical collapse in the desert, an unprecedented sports mutiny in Zurich, and a massive architectural discovery in Silicon Valley, has finally converged into one single historic event. The players have realized that in a hyper-connected world, you cannot move a single chess piece without shaking the entire board. Earlier today, tournament organizers, tech consortiums, and neutral diplomatic intermediaries announced a joint venture that no one saw coming, the Global Neutrality Initiative. Rather than forcing the world to adapt to a fractured reality, these 3 massive institutions are merging their resources to build a secure, independent ecosystem completely insulated from the traditional corridors of state-level interference.
The infrastructure for this global initiative will be entirely powered by Marcus Platner's newly redesigned open-source safety architecture. By deploying this decentralized system, the organization ensures that internal communications, voting procedures, and data privacy are permanently protected from external hacking or corporate exploitation. To celebrate this historic merger, the upcoming international sports tournament will serve as the official launchpad for the technology, showcasing a live, real-time application of a secure digital network operating across hundreds of countries simultaneously. For everyday citizens, this structural unification marks the end of an era of uncertainty. It proves that when traditional geopolitical systems fail to maintain stability, the private, cultural, and technological sectors have the power to step up and establish their own parameters for global cooperation. The markets have already responded with unprecedented stability, and the long-term projections look brighter than they have in years. The chaotic week that kept the world holding its breath is officially over. What started as a chaotic series of breaking news alerts has ended as a masterclass in global adaptation, proving that even in a highly unpredictable landscape, humanity will always find a way to innovate, connect, and build a more resilient future.
The unexpected announcement of the Global Neutrality Initiative has rapidly transitioned from an ambitious concept into an operational reality. Across the international landscape, the framework is being integrated into the core structures of diplomacy, sports management, and technological deployment, establishing a new paradigm for institutional cooperation. In the geopolitical sphere, the newly established neutral corridors have successfully facilitated a series of direct, bilateral discussions between key regional representatives. While the broad geopolitical agreements of the past remain inactive, this new modular approach to diplomacy focuses entirely on localized stability, resource management, and secure economic transport. Rather than attempting to resolve historic systemic differences all at once, negotiators are leveraging decentralized data nodes to monitor border agreements in real time, providing an objective, tamper-proof system that builds baseline trust where it previously could not exist. Simultaneously, the Global Sports Federation has formalized its new regulatory status. By anchoring its administrative and voting processes within an independent digital ledger, the organization has created a transparent operational shield that effectively eliminates external pressure from state-level actors. Major tournament planning is moving forward with a renewed focus on sportsmanship, as corporate sponsors and broadcasting networks rally behind the newly stabilized, predictable format. The successful insulation of these massive cultural events demonstrates that international celebrations can be preserved even during times of widespread geopolitical realignment. The technological sector is experiencing a parallel transformation as the open-source safety architecture undergoes its first large-scale deployment. Major technology firms are actively adapting their systems to align with these rigorous new data protection protocols, prioritizing architectural resilience and user privacy above accelerated development cycles. This systemic shift has introduced a sophisticated standard of corporate accountability, where the integrity of a digital framework is verified by independent, distributed networks before it ever reaches the public market. As these independent systems continue to align, the global infrastructure is demonstrating an unprecedented level of resilience. The immediate challenges that defined the previous weeks have given way to a structured, highly collaborative ecosystem, proving that when traditional frameworks face disruption, the intentional unification of cultural, technological, and administrative sectors can establish a steady path forward for global progress. The ultimate chapter of this historical shift is now being written not in the headlines, but in the long-term changes across the global matrix. What began as a terrifying series of rapid-fire crises has officially concluded,
transforming the foundational systems of modern society into a more resilient, highly collaborative reality. The transition phase is complete, and the new dawn has fully arrived. The Global Neutrality Initiative has successfully achieved its primary objective, the complete decoupling of essential human systems from unpredictable state-level volatility. Across the Middle East, the modular, data-monitored border zones have established a permanent state of functional peace. By relying on objective, decentralized monitoring rather than easily broken political promises, regional trade corridors have reached an all-time high in efficiency. The old cycle of sudden flare-ups and collapsing accords has been replaced by a quiet, highly optimized network of trade and resource sharing that benefits the everyday civilian first. In the sports arena, the constitutional independence of athletic federations has officially fundamentally altered international entertainment. The inaugural tournament, operating under the new decentralized, tamper-proof system, concluded this evening to historic viewership numbers. Free from the shadow of state interference, the games were celebrated as a pure showcase of human capability and unity. Broadcast networks and global sponsors have fully embraced the model, realizing that institutional transparency creates a reliable economic environment that completely eliminates political risk. The tech industry has similarly emerged from its historic overhaul stronger and more intentional than ever. The widespread implementation of Marcus Platner's open-source security architecture has effectively eliminated the systemic vulnerabilities that once put hundreds of millions of users at risk. Digital platforms are no longer launching experimental, unchecked programs to boost short-term stock trends. Instead, a new culture of algorithmic auditing has taken root, prioritizing data integrity, safety, and human privacy above all else. As this final part draws to a close, the grand experiment of the past weeks stands as a monumental triumph. When traditional geopolitical strategies fractured under immense pressure, the combined ingenuity of tech innovators, cultural institutions, and structural organizers stepped forward to map out a better path. The chaos has officially been conquered, leaving behind an exceptionally stable, deeply connected, and beautifully resilient world, ready to build a bright tomorrow.